Hi everyone, Seth from Guardian Angel IT here. In this lesson, we'll be covering the advantages that small businesses have when it comes to cybersecurity. This might come as a shock, but in a lot of ways, small businesses are much easier to secure than big ones. In fact, the bigger the business, the harder cybersecurity tends to become. The end result is that big businesses need to spend a lot more per user, per computer, per device than small businesses do to achieve the same security posture. Let's take a quick look at why cybersecurity is hard at big businesses. First, you might be under the impression that big businesses have so much money and so many people, including IT people, that IT and cybersecurity are easy for them. The truth is often the opposite. Think about it this way: the average number of employees at Fortune 500 companies in 2025 is right around 67,000 people. It's true that they do have dedicated IT and cybersecurity staff, but at the end of the day, it's still a lot of people to manage. There are 67,000 people who occasionally need IT support. They also need annual cybersecurity training. If you want to enforce stronger passwords, and this requires a password reset, let's be generous and say that 80% of employees are capable of doing it on their own with some guidance. So even with only 20% requiring support, that's almost 13,500 IT tickets to do a single password reset. At big companies, keeping systems patched is a logistical nightmare, requiring a lot of time and coordination, and it often can't be done completely. Of course, I'm disregarding the fact that patching is never done, because updates roll out every day, but bear with me. The average non tech Fortune 500 company has about 30,000 devices, and the more technical companies can have way over 100,000. At this size, at almost every company, you have older critical systems that literally can't be patched without messing something up. In addition to size related challenges, there's also constant organizational change to contend with. For example, the average Fortune 500 company has an employee turnover rate of 19%. This means that there are almost 13,000 people leaving and also joining the company every year. 13,000 accounts that need to get deleted, and 13,000 new accounts with the right groups and privileges assigned that need to get created. Computers, laptops, and mobile devices need to be issued and managed. And 13,000 people need onboarding training as well. Big companies also have to deal with mergers and acquisitions, which from an IT perspective is like suddenly getting an additional 25 or 50,000 people that need to get onboarded and integrated into the company's network and systems. A lot of the time, the networks are basically just bolted together rather than fully integrated with each other. This leads to a number of other difficulties, including cybersecurity risks that grow with the company. Making matters even more complicated, company and department priorities change with management. When a new manager comes in, everything can suddenly change overnight. All these things combine to make cybersecurity really tough at big companies. As a result, big companies need to buy their way toward a more secure environment by investing a lot more money. Not only do they rely on many layers of expensive defenses that need to be actively managed, they also spend a ton of money on cyber insurance. In contrast to large enterprises, small businesses have a lot of distinct advantages. The first that we'll look at is manageable size. Smaller size means fewer hardware assets that need to be inventoried, managed, and secured. There are also a lot less applications to manage, which means much less patching across the board. Small companies typically don't rely on a lot of custom software, which means that standardized security solutions are a lot easier to implement reliably. A smaller workforce means that every IT task is easier. It's so much easier to get 10 people to change their password or adopt multi factor authentication than it is to get 100,000 people to do the same. And small businesses generally have less complex networks and IT systems. This makes it a lot easier to manage the company network and troubleshoot when something goes wrong. It also makes small businesses a lot easier to defend against cyber attacks. The second major advantage that we'll talk about is that small businesses experience less change. Less change means less mistakes, and for example, less unnecessary software left installed on computers, less old hardware hidden in back rooms, and less user accounts that should have been deleted a long time ago. All real world examples that negatively impact a company's security posture. Not only do small businesses have less people, but the turnover rate can be a lot lower as well. This means that it's easier to manage the network and all of the company's devices, as well as train employees and maintain consistent security practices across the organization. The other big advantage of low turnover is that there's a lot less onboarding and offboarding. So, when it comes to the small business network from one day to the next, the computers are pretty much the same, the user accounts and groups are the same, and the whole network stays fairly constant. This makes the network much easier to manage and protect than a big network where things are changing all the time. Next, at small businesses, you generally don't have to worry about mergers or acquisitions causing big changes to the company's overall IT and cybersecurity footprint. When acquisitions happen, it's usually the small business being acquired by a larger one, and the acquiring company takes care of the IT side of things. However, I do want to mention that there is a compelling case for leveraging a robust cybersecurity program when it comes to an acquisition. If you're a small business owner who's looking to be acquired, the last thing you need is a cyber attack making your company look bad. On the flip side, maintaining good cyber hygiene, following best practices, and having even basic IT and cybersecurity related documentation can help make your company really stand out and be more attractive for potential investors or buyers. These types of activities really demonstrate that you care about your business and have invested into its processes. The next point is that leadership at small businesses tends to change much less often. Stable leadership is a huge advantage because it allows the company to focus on long term goals rather than short term wins. Large corporations often have frequent turnover in leadership, and people are changing roles constantly. Executives sometimes focus on short term results to meet performance targets or advance their own careers, which can lead to less consistent priorities. In contrast, leadership at small businesses is much more stable. Some small businesses are family owned and have been guided by the same people for generations, which means leadership can think not just about the next quarter, but about the next year, decade, or even generation. That stability increases the likelihood that the positive changes that you make, including cybersecurity improvements, will be maintained and built upon over time. Finally, when we look at small businesses, one big advantage is that the environment itself is usually much more predictable. Employees often stay in the same roles for a while, so their access needs don't change very much. The technology setup, your hardware, software, and networks also tend to be simpler and more stable. This makes it much easier to keep track of things and avoid surprises. And because things aren't constantly shifting, you can actually plan ahead and steadily improve security without feeling like the ground is moving underneath you all the time. One of the biggest advantages small businesses have over large corporations is flexibility. Big companies get bogged down in red tape, committees, and endless approval layers. Small businesses, you can move fast. Take something simple like enforcing strong passwords or rolling out MFA. At a company with 100,000 employees, that could take months of planning, multiple IT teams, and a lot of pushback at every level of the organization. At a small business with 10 or 20 employees, you can make that change in a week. Training and awareness are another area where flexibility pays off. With a small team, everyone can hear the same message, get the same training, and adapt at the same pace together. You don't have to worry about it getting lost across thousands of people. Cost is another big one. It's so much cheaper to roll out changes in a small environment. Fewer systems, fewer licenses, fewer people to manage. It bears mentioning that cost and the fact that cost tends to scale up faster than the business itself grows is a main reason that we really encourage small businesses to invest in their systems and processes while they're still small. It's much cheaper to build a strong cybersecurity posture while you're small and then scale it with your business than it is to wait until you're bigger and it costs more. If you decide not to invest in cybersecurity when you get bigger, and I really hope you do, there's a good chance you'll find yourself thinking that if you had just invested a bit when you were small, you could have saved money and have been much more secure that entire time. Next up is red tape. If you've ever worked for a big company, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Large corporations have so much red tape that I've literally seen people quit over it. I've seen mid career engineers who came from small companies throw in the towel after 2 weeks of being exposed to the fact that they can't just change things, buy things, experiment, find out what works. The list goes on and on. At big companies, you can't even partner with who you want a lot of the time, even if they're totally reputable. There are lots of reasons for it, but it's everywhere you look. You can spend months figuring out exactly what your business needs and then have the purchase get denied by procurement because the company decided that they're enforcing 180-day payment terms and the supplier won't support that. At small companies, there's often only as much red tape as the owner decides to implement. I'm not saying you should go crazy installing or buying different things, but having the ability to buy the right thing at the right time that you need it is really amazing. Finally, small businesses can experiment with new tools or policies without a giant budget or bureaucracy holding them back. You can try something, see if it works, and adopt it quickly if it does, or dump it and find something else if it doesn't. In our Small Business Cybersecurity course, we provide a lot of guidance and different options for how to do things. Or you can totally do everything yourself. You might decide that you like one password manager over another, or that you want a different inventory system, maybe even a fancy automated one, instead of a spreadsheet that you need to update from time to time. The point is, it's all up to you. Every business is different, and you have the freedom to find out what works for your business. Before we wrap up, I want to mention that this video is just one part of our free small business cybersecurity course available on our website. The course combines informational articles with hands on tasks, guiding you step by step to help you strengthen your security posture. Right now, it includes dozens of resources, and it's growing all the time, with everything organized in one place for you to follow. You can check it out at guardianangelit.com/small-business-cybersecurity. Thanks for tuning in.